Welcome to the Activation Show, and it's an episode live in person, which is so exciting. I love doing these ones, and I'm actually here with two people. Susan Hamsis, you're the founder of Inclusiverse, and the reason that I'm in touch with you and why I'm here today is because of Virginie, who is an image consultant. Now, it's likely that this podcast episode is going to be released before the one that I recorded with you actually first. But yeah, I think Virginie, just to like a little bit recap, you are doing with style and image very much a similar thing to what I'm doing with voice in terms of how we express ourselves and how what we feel on the inside is aligned with what's on the outside.
Absolutely. I could not use better words. I'm a style coach, we could say. I help you to align in and out and find your self-expression through clothes. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so we had a beautiful conversation that I'm so excited to be also live and online. And I guess it's partly as a result of that conversation. Now you've done my image, color, body, and style analysis. That's why there's been a mini style revolution over here in the meantime. Let me just turn down the mic by one. And you also just reached out to me at some point. Do you want to speak a little bit about why you thought Susan should be on the podcast?
Yes, I reached out to you because I met Susan not so long ago to speak about style coaching. And actually what happened is I was sharing with her that I had some clients with who I had discussed who were from minorities and not living in Sweden, who came to live in Sweden. And some other grew up in Sweden, but they seemed to experience some similar issue with a style which had to do with inclusiveness. And as I was sharing that with you, you could recall to that experience and you share very interesting detail that I hope we will also maybe talk about here. And you started to explain to me what your new project pretty much is about and what you're building at the moment, which felt very much in touch with what I had shared about this issue that my clients were encountering around their image, being a minority living in Sweden.
And basically, you touched on it, like inclusiveness. So I founded the company Inclusiverse, which is talking about inclusivity in society, but mostly in the workplace. Because when you feel that you are included, then you dare to express yourself more. You feel the sense of belonging, you feel the sense of inner strength, you're more connected with yourself, you're more within your platform, you dare to be more within your platform. And then being a minority, growing up in a country where you are not the majority, you learn to adapt very easily. And in style, in your voice, in how you are. And that takes an emotional toll on you. And I think we in Sweden, but all in the Western world, are losing a lot of work talent because people cannot be fully themselves in the workplace. They're not as innovative, they're not as expressing, and they're not as problem solving because they're afraid to be judged. Because their whole life they had to shield behind this, I am different and I need to adapt to be able to be included.
And it's a big part of what touched me in the story I shared about my clients and the story you shared and where you make your company, and why I thought about it is because the self-expression was being tamed. Yeah. And that hurts also in me to hear that for a woman.
Can you speak a little bit into some of the ways that self-expression can get kind of damaged by being a minority or feeling like you're a minority?
Sure. Like example, I can talk about my own experience is that for me, when I grew up, and actually up until I moved to the US, I wouldn't dare to have my hair fully out curly, natural, because I did not want to be judged. I wanted to fit in. I didn't want to be seen as one of them. I wanted to be seen as one of us being the majority Western world. I would straighten my hair. I would never wear big jewelries. I would never wear colorful clothes. I would always tone myself down to not shine too much on other people, to also to fit in, not to stand out. Even my name is Susan, so it's like a very Western accepted name, and I would never even say that at home I'll be called Susie. Because all my relatives at home, they don't know who Susan is. I'm Susie. So having those two worlds, at home being one person, called Susie, acting one way, fully liberated, and then in society, even with my friends, acting another way, trying to be something that wasn't fully me. Maybe parts of it was me, but not fully me. And it wasn't until I moved to the US when I realized that there are several other options and I can be whoever I am. There are not only 5 boxes where I have to choose which one I want to fit in and how to kind of make myself small to fit in that box. I can expand and make the box fit to me, just the way I am. And that was not easy, because you have to kind of understand and go back and forgive yourself for the stuff you did in your earlier life to fit in. Forgive yourself and say, hey, I wasn't in the wrong. The process is wrong. How can we do something about it? And learn more that who am I? I had to kind of go back and get to know who am I. And I wanted to be tough, clear, because I used to work as a project manager. And all the project management trainings I had, now I realize they were made for white men, aggressive white men. And that's not me. But I was still a really good project leader. And I kind of felt like, you know what? I'm a kind, nice person. I don't like conflicts, but I can take something up if I can see an improvement. And that's okay. I don't have to be this aggressive businessman style to succeed in the corporate world. I can just be me. And I have to thank a lot of other Black women that I met in the office in Chicago, or even that I met in my private life in the US, because they showed me the way to be fully me and fully unapologetically expressing myself. And it lands on the other person who perceives me. If they see me in a wrong light or if they see me too much. So I also worked with ASE, the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement. We worked a lot with Latin American immigrants in the US and how to help them in the career enhancement, and also how to help their employer, HR, management team, their manager, to understand that this person is not like me, this person is different, but how do I give them their best to bloom? Best nourishment to bloom. And I realized we do need that here in Sweden. I grew up in Sweden where that's not been addressed. Like, oh, we say everyone can be whoever they are, but within these frames, within these Swedish frames. And that will affect you and how you express yourself in clothes.
Yes, absolutely.
And I noticed after moving back to Sweden that I was really not in the mood of dressing up anymore. I toned down my colors. I was more soft, like wanted to wear soft bands and just more home cozy. And I didn't feel like, hey, in the US, I always dress up. I love going out and doing this and that. And that's why I contacted you. It's like, hey, you know what? I do think I need an image consultant or stylist. I need someone to kind of waken up this in me again. And it was so funny because already in the first session we were like so much into the diversity and inclusion in the beauty industry, in fashion and clothes.
Yeah, I can share a little bit here, because what happened is I was doing some post about hairstyle, and you reached out to me and you so elegantly told me, hey, can you add some woman of color because I cannot see myself here? And I said, thank you. And I adjusted that. And also, I also think I reached back by saying, hey, can you also give me some reference here? Because I don't know so many, but I can put in my pictures also, which are also because you want a certain aesthetic also in fashion and so on. And you also addressed to me that actually the fashion is one of the worst. I don't remember exactly how you expressed that. Do you want to expand a little bit on that, how this diversity you noticed was lacking?
Yes, the diversity in the fashion is lacking, especially in the beauty fashion. It's getting a little bit better now, but we still have a far to go. Like, for example, when I was in my early 20s, I would not find any makeup that would fit me. I would buy the Rouge, the powder, and use as foundation. I would sometimes even just not use foundation because there's no foundation in my color, or use a bright one but have it really thin, and always like wanting my skin also to look a little bit brighter because then I fit in with the majority. Now we do have a little bit more diversity because they have been harshly criticized, but what I see is they have 17 colors of white and 2 or 3 colors of black.
So you're doing it, you think, more for the marketing in a way?
More for the marketing, more like, hey, see, we cover from this to that, but actually you only have 3 pieces or 4 pieces that are, and none of them was my skin color. So I had to buy 2 and then mix at home. And even though now I felt like, I didn't even think about it, but the other day I was like telling my sister, oh, look, I'm using lipstick and I'm using it as rouge because this color fits me so nice. And she was like, yeah, don't you think it's sad that they don't make rouge for people in our skin color? So you have to kind of bypass and use lipstick instead. You know, it was still like in the dark, in the cloud. They didn't realize like, yeah, why am my skin color not included in this? And I also now starting to become more critical and look out, and not in a harsh way, but just said like in a very elegant and understandable way, and a way to want to teach. Like, hey, can we have more representation here? Or like, it's, if you say something is for all, let's make it that it's for all. Otherwise, it's not fair, and that's giving a very, very harsh toll on the person who's not included, because then in the word all, they cannot belong.
And I have to say that when I came to do a session with you, I tried to put myself in your shoes a little bit, and I was like, okay, if she was a personal stylist and I was a client, and we would do a body shape analysis or a color analysis, and she would show me a picture only of black woman, how would I feel? And I was like, I would not see myself. But it felt very clear to me, and then I could feel a little bit of your pain. I was like, this is horrible, because then I would never see myself, and then I would have to find a way to translate this, but it would never be me, which is not what I experience today, of course, because I see white woman. But this realization really, it switched something in my mind. For me, as being a white woman, I was like, wow, this is... It's crazy.
Yeah, and if you live in the majority, it's
yes.
hard to see it. It's hard to know about it, and it's hard to imagine it. Actually, was a couple of years ago here in Sweden who said that she put on a hijab.
Yeah.
She's a white woman. She put on a hijab, and she went one day in town, and she realized how much different she was treated. Just because people assume things about her, just the way she looked. So the same, like, you cannot change your skin color, but put on a hijab and just walk down the street. You realize there is something that you can't really put words on it, but there is a differentiation in how people treat you. And I've noticed that, and I looked exactly the same way I do in every way. When I was living in the US, I would go fly back and forward between US and Sweden. And if I would go out to the check-in counter and I speak English, I would get treated so much better than going into the checkout counter and speaking fluent Swedish. Because I was being an exotic American versus an immigrant in my country. And I bet you they don't even know they're doing this distinct, because this is an unconscious bias, but there is a status. And first I was like, no, it's in my head. So I gave it a try, because I was flying back and forth a lot of times. And every time I was speaking English, I get a check-in luggage for free, I get this, I can change my seat. And whenever I speak Swedish, it's like a really harsh treatment. Oh, you're supposed to be here earlier. Or, no, sorry, ma'am, we cannot change your seat. You should have done it online yesterday. But when I would speak English, because my English is very well, you cannot hear that I am non-English native speaker, or like that I am Swedish, because I don't have a Swedish accent. So in their mind, I was exotic. I was a foreigner, an American, living here in Sweden, or being here in Sweden, going back to the US, versus an immigrant.
I'm a little bit curious if you can. It's a several thing I'm a bit curious about. Maybe you also have questions, but I'm also curious about. Can you tell us a little bit about the unconscious bias I might have in the day to day? You know, that can happen. I'm thinking especially in the workplace, because it's where we spend most of the time, which is outside of our family.
There are a lot, and they are unconscious. They are unconscious, so it's hard for you to know about them. But I think when sometimes you just have to kind of just check your bias a little bit when you say something, when you assume something. And they could also be unconscious to the other way. Because it could be like, oh, Susan, do you know what this dish is called? I had it once when I was in Zimbabwe. And I'm like, but I'm from Sudan. Yeah, but it's Africa. Maybe you know. And I'm like, yeah, that is a very strong unconscious bias and maybe even a little bit of microaggression in there. And people think like, no, but it's lack of knowledge. And it would be like I would come and ask someone here in Sweden about a dish in Albania.
Yeah.
Then they will understand it.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of unconscious bias because in the workplace, and especially what I will work with a lot in Inclusiverse, is that bosses and managers and even HR will think that these people will, like immigrants, will behave like them. Will, like, if I, for example, what can I say? If I say, hey, I want you to do this task, do you understand it? In some cultures, it might be rude to say, no, I did not understand. Or no, I disagree with you. And then it's like, oh, they said nothing, so that's fine. There just shouldn't be a problem. And also there is an unconscious bias that you do see them as probably like less intelligent, because I've seen that in the workplace, when you kind of like, yeah, no, I don't want to give that task to that person because they probably won't be able to manage it. I'll give it to this person. And by doing that, you help this person, the second person, to develop and learn how to deal with this task while this person never get the development. So your bias becomes a confirmation. And there's also something called affinity bias. It's psychological. It's within us, human beings. We tend to adhere more to people who look like us. And not only in physical attributes, but also people who went to the same school as us or came from the same city as us. There is something kind of a nicer, which means that those people will get a better shine in the workplace. They will maybe be invited for lunch or also other events that their colleagues might not be. And then that will give them a little bit of an advantage for the next career move. And there is a big majority of white men in leadership position. So when you put that affinity bias, of course, they're going to connect more with other younger white men. So there is the scale is already a little bit shifted. So we need to wake up to make sure that, hey, I'm going to check my bias, because if it was me, I know maybe I'll connect more with a younger girl from Sudan. And I know I would, because then I'll need to check my bias. Hey, am I making a disadvantage here to the other people because I connect more with this person? So you need to check it as a white man or any type of person.
Thank you.
I think you speak really beautifully into like how the environment is so important for how freely we feel that we can express ourselves and just be ourselves, and how much responsibility we have together to create those conditions.
Yes.
And I just wonder, like, it's not a perfect environment in the USA. We know that.
Yeah, for sure.
But I am curious also because I've just released an episode about role models and how important they are for sort of like teaching us things that really no book can teach us, because we need to see it modeled in real life in order to find our flavor of it. And I'm curious to like zoom a little bit back into your experience in the USA before you came back to Sweden again, and sort of in the context of having these role models. What did that process look like for you of coming more into contact with the expression of who you really are?
Before going to the US, I've been in hundreds of meetings all over Europe. Never have I ever sat in a meeting room with another Black woman. And I had no idea I missed that. I had no idea what way it affected me. And actually once I sat in a meeting room with another Black man through all these meetings. Going to the US, within the first week, I've had several meetings with other women, Black women, in the room. Some of them older than me, some of them my age. but the way I saw them, just you said, the unspoken things, the way I saw them dare to take space in the room, dare to say something, just dare to laugh, dare to do this. I had no idea I was so hungry for that. And it took me a while to realize, hey, if they can't, like, so can I. And what that meant to me, that made me, like, next time, I dare to say this. I dare to say, no, I really don't understand. Can we take it again? Or say, oh, well, I disagree, or I have a question there. Or like, you know what, this meeting, you probably didn't need me in this meeting, because for me, that was a taboo to say before. But seeing other strong women, Black women, looking like me, probably dealing with the same struggle as me, with like, how do I express myself? How do I express myself? To see them, how they navigated and found the perfect solution for it, helped me to navigate my own pathway, to find my solution. And I think the word role model is so well needed. And you can't say, oh, this is a role model. Come on, follow this person. It just has to be in the atmosphere where you are. It has to be, and also I think them having so much space made it easier for me to take this space, because the surrounding accepted that these women had this space a little bit more than it was in Sweden. Of course, there are issues in the US, but at least in the workplace, I felt that gave me a little bit more free space to dare to be me. I didn't have to cut off pieces of me to fit in or not to be attacked by microaggressions.
It's beautiful.
I would like to say something about role models from a general point of view for everyone, because everyone needs a role model. And it's something which has a bit disappeared nowadays, to have role models. And as you say, often it's just that, oh, you should take this person as a role model because it's a good person. But actually, a role model is someone who embodies quality that you want as well, but they have already walked that path. So it actually should not come from this person is saying good things or doing good things. It should come from, when I see them, something activates in me. This, you might not be able to express it this way, but there's a bit of a desire to be like them. And I think it should be really feeling driven. And I also want to speak to the people who are asked to be a role model when they are being approached sometimes, because not all of them take that role, because they don't always see it. But a person is seeking for their history and experience the same thing. And I'm thinking it is so important to acknowledge also when someone comes to you for that, and to take them in with their experience. And you don't have to, but they are daring to walk the same path that you did. And that is important, because it enables more freedom anywhere for anyone. So I wanted to address that, because I speak sometimes about it with students, and I see it the same here in your story actually.
It's needed. And I think, like, we are community build, so, and it's there's a lot of psychology behind it. Like, we adapt where people allow us to adapt, we expand where people allow us to expand. And it's just, if someone else has already cut off the woods and broadened their pathway, then you can have more space for your wings.
Yes.
And then you dare to cut off the woods and broaden it further down for your...
And it's really enjoyable to spend time with those people as well. Because maybe you have never even experienced someone like this before. So suddenly it's like, oh, wow, we can speak about this. I have someone I can relate to.
Yes.
So it's very healing.
Yes. And it opens up a whole new world of discovery of things.
Exactly.
And stuff you thought, like, oh, I had no idea you could discuss about it.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is lacking today in the workplace, for sure. And it was actually someone through Hasi, an Hispanic woman, she said that she asked that in an interview when she's going to places, like, how do you treat women who look like me? Can you show me that you have promoted Hispanic women? Otherwise, I'm not going to come to you if you don't, because I don't want to broaden the path for you. As an employer, I want you to already broaden the path so I can just roll through it, just like any white man would. How do you have people who look like me, and how do you treat them? And I think ask a question like that in an interview in Sweden, that would be like, you scare HR if you ask a question like that.
Yes. Wow. Yes. That is a powerful question.
It's a very beautiful question, yes, because it's forced the person to look at themselves.
Yes.
And they will take it as, there's something here to look at. Or oh my God, let's not look at it.
A lot of them unfortunately go like, oh my God, let's not look at it. And that's where they need to look into it, because they can only gain from looking into it. It hurts to see it, but then you can solve it. It's easy to solve.
And it's a little bit what you aim to do with your company, to help those people who are afraid to look at it. Wait, because of course I can imagine being the only HR alone in that meeting, you would be overwhelmed by that question.
Yes.
And with a little power maybe that you might have in your even role, but if there are someone like you who can step by step support them to do those move forward, it can, what can it bring in terms of benefit for the company and in terms of benefit for the individual and in terms of self-expression?
Yes,
I'm curious.
So my company will offer training programs both for the individual with ethnic minority, but also for HR and the manager.
Okay.
And for the individual ethnic minority, it's set in 7 different sessions, where you talk first about the emotional tax, the minority stress as it's called in Sweden, about how it is to live in a dual world, having your place at home and having the workplace. Because a lot of people are doing it, ethnic minorities in Sweden, but they don't know that that's affecting their mental health very much.
And I must say that talking with clients, I also noticed that it's not only the one who grew up in Sweden being from minorities, even the one who moved to Sweden for a few years. I experienced clients also expressing that. Sorry, continue.
So it's a good class for them also to take, because then it gives you also the tools how to deal with it, how to deal with yourself, finding in yourself and just be you, and the people that you're surrounding just have to accept that this is who you are. And also how to deal with small microaggressions, how to deal with comments, because nowadays a lot of people are like, I don't want to answer back, and I want to say this because I don't want to pollute the room into a bad atmosphere. But like how to do it, first of all, in a way that won't pollute the room to a bad atmosphere, but also call it out. And also tell yourself, like, I'm not the one polluting the room. They did when they made that comment. I'm just putting it back to place. And I think a lot of people who do or say these comments, it's not coming from a bad place. It's just coming from ignorance and lack of knowledge. So if you're in a good way, kind of like direct them back into good knowledge, and it will not only teach them, but everyone in that conversation. So you'll get tools to how to deal with that. And then the other ways, like when after you recruit diverse stuff, because it's very popular right now. It's high fashion. Look at our stuff; they're very nice. You recruit them. What do you do?
We have quotas. I can tell you because I worked in recruitment. We have quotas to fill, actually.
And what do you do after you fill those quotas? You just let them shine there, like you buy exotic fruits, you put it in a basket, and here it is. Look, I have very exotic fruit. I'm an intelligent person. I'm an intelligent company. Or do you know the benefits of these fruits? Do you know how to prepare these fruits to get the absolute maximum nourishment from these fruits? And a lot of companies, they treat these fruits the same way that they treat other fruits they know. For example, bananas do not get treated the same way as apples. Apples do not get treated the same way as orange. Because in the orange, you can't eat the peel. You can prepare and cook the peel for something, but for apples you can't eat the peels. For bananas you cannot eat the peels, but it's really hard to cook the fruit. So it's a different mentality in how to do it. So the company will both deal like with the education to the ethnic minority, education to the management team and HR, and education to the whole company. How do we have uncomfortable conversation comfortably? Because there are a lot of people who have a lot of questions, but they don't dare to ask those questions because they're afraid to be judged as racist or ignorant or full of bias. But I think it's really good to address those questions to help these people in their development, in their journey, and also because that will help the atmosphere to be more open. So that's one part. And then the third part is a mentorship program. You will be connected as ethnic minority with another ethnic minority who's kind of passed into that glass ceiling. Just to have a role model, just to have someone you can ask questions. You can't really ask your boss or your employee, just small things like, how do I have salary negotiation conversations? How do I do this? I'm thinking of that. Just someone who'll be like a big brother or a big sister, knowing the journey you're going through because they went through it also, helping you to find it easier.
Great. So we're going to make sure that we put links in the show notes to how to contact you about this. Sounds
yes.
amazing.
Yes.
We're pretty much at time.
Oh.
I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
Which is that, so if someone's listening to this who is also a minority and they feel really seen and like they're really resonating with what you're saying, and feel like, wow, I'm not fully expressing myself, I'm kind of hiding in some ways. What's one biggest tip that you have for them?
First of all, see, why are you hiding? Are you hiding because your surrounding will not accept you if you come out? And you are you. You will always be you for the rest of your life. Your surrounding you can't change. Find people that you're more comfortable to share who you are with. But if you're hiding because out of fear, but your surrounding is very accepting, you can start with small steps. Like just say, if you're an ethnic minority, if you just say, hey, yesterday evening I ate this food, which is from your hometown. Just a small share, and you'll see how much positive impact that will get. It's just like small stuff. And then build it on from there. Or connect with other people that like, would you feel that they empower you in that to share who you are. So I think start small and comfortable. Just don't push too much because it's all about you. You should feel good about this. And the hiding is never good for you. At least not long term.
Yeah, you will always be the one paying the tax for it, pretty much. Yeah.
Yes. And it's actually called emotional tax in the US. So it is a tax. And you'll be one paying it and you get nothing for it. Absolutely nothing.
So, what is happening on the 28th of May?
So, the 28th of May, I actually met amazing women that I've discussed these type of issues with, minority stress, emotional tax, being immigrant here in Sweden, growing up as immigrant. So on the 28th of May, we will have a lunch and learn that will include me and Noah Musbah. She worked a lot with theater, improv theater, and she also has a company like how to make workplaces more open so people dare to be who they are. She is originally from Egypt, and I'm originally from Sudan, and we're neighboring countries. So we had a good discussion about how we grew up in Sweden, what struggles we had. So we will do that in a lunch and learn together with a psychiatrist, and she will give us the scientific reasons behind the way we reacted, the way we try to adapt, or at least for me, how I try to adapt. And then also the psychological reasons behind how society behaves. So it will be a lunch and learn for 1 hour, 12 o'clock Stockholm time. And we'll post. But if you want to attend, just go on inclusiverse.se, and then there will be a way to register your participation.
Amazing.
So,
Inclusiverse.se.
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 Inclusiverse.se. And it's for everyone, so because we are very including it inclusive.
It's not just for minorities, it's for everyone who wants to come and speak about those actually present issues that we're having at the moment in society.
Yes, and it's good for other people to know, like, oh, I had no idea. Now I understand my neighbor better. Now I understand my kids' family, friends better. Now I understand my colleague better. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's really beautiful that you bring that, because I do think it can be sort of like scary to even open the box, just like you were saying, like, what if I say something wrong? What if I say something racist? But it's the kind of thing that we just can't actually avoid. We can't, for
us to grow into the next step, we have to deal with this.
Yeah.
And I think if everyone's coming from a good place, you can have such amazing conversation. And I've experienced it when we had sessions where people came in and was like, hey, is it okay to say this? If not, can you please tell me why so I understand? Just small things like that. It's really good, and it makes everyone feel like, you know what, maybe you, when you said it 2 weeks ago, you didn't mean something bad about it. It just became a place of lack of knowledge. Now you know better, so you do better.
I can recall to have asked that to some friends is it okay to say XYZ, or how do you express that? So I recall having this question mark, so I can understand people have it. Yeah.
And how did it feel for you when you got the...
It felt good to have people who I felt comfortable enough and I could ask them, so I could create a space for the other people I would speak with about whatever subject I was preparing, to address them properly and not in any offending way. So it felt good but there was an open space where I could go to, definitely.
100% agree. It's the open space that's the important part.
Yeah.
So, don't miss it. 28th of May.
28th of May.
Yes.
28th of May.
28th of May.